This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome in on a Monday to the Monday Mashup on Detroit Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Shea Norling. With me, Kevin McCann.
What's going on?
Tons to talk about. The NFL went wild this week with trades and free agency and players grabbing power.
All of a sudden, power plays.
Just wildly successful power plays that I thought were completely impossible. And Michigan State happened.
Yeah, I liked that.
I thoroughly enjoyed that.
I haven't watched a whole lot of college basketball this year, but that
I was going to say, you're not a college basketball guy.
I don't. It's slow. Like, even, I love Michigan State, and even like the last part of that game where they missed a shot and got the rebound, and there's still 30 seconds on the shot clock. I was like, that's not fair. There's like 3 minutes left. Like, you can't, like, you got to cut it in half.
I'm kind of the same way. I don't love the product.
No,
I don't love the way the game's played.
Yeah.
But I like watching it for like scouting purposes.
Right.
And looking to see who it might.
Once you like look past the exploitation of the players and all that,
exactly.
It's okay. It's like listening to R. Kelly, but like not quite as bad.
Duke, North Carolina, when Bolden got hurt, and I'm like, the fact that this guy is just going to snap his leg and get zero compensation is disgusting.
It's terrible.
It is a little like R. Kelly,
but like not quite.
Not
to
quite.
That degree.
Not quite. Speaking of the R. Kelly stuff, did you happen to catch that Michael Jackson documentary? I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard terrifying things.
I see the things on Twitter, like I can't listen to his music anymore, and it's like, well, maybe I'll just listen to the Jackson 5 stuff. It's not that bad if he's a kid, too. Like, then it's just, whatever. Like,
he can't have been...
Can I listen to Billie Jean anymore? Probably not. But I Want You Back, ABC, I think I'm okay.
I Want You Back is a great song.
Yeah. I'm good with listening to those.
I think we got to cancel the Michael Jackson talk as quickly as possible.
Yeah, no, we're
done. But Michigan State, Cassius Winston, that second half defies adjectives.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
He is like I kept watching it, and he's locked into Big Ten Player of the Year for a month or two now. Like I'm
not gonna lie to you, like I said that before I even saw a game this year.
He is so solidly Big Ten Player of the Year. It's ridiculous. What I saw last night might have elevated him to National Player of the Year. Like
when the Detroit Catholic High School League sends a point guard to Michigan State, he wins Big Ten Player of the Year. Shout out Kalen Lucas.
It's true. This guy is a Wooden Award finalist. That's the same one Denzel won, I believe.
No, I thought he won Havlicek.
How
many different awards are there?
There's so many Player of the Year. The big one is Naismith. And
right.
Cassius is a semifinalist for the Naismith. I can't imagine he will be not a finalist.
I bet the names in the Naismith were like, who's won the Naismith? Like Tyler Hansborough and just those names that have never been anything but were phenomenal in college.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like Jalen Brunson won it last
Kaminsky.
year. I got to look at the history of the winners here because I know Jalen Brunson won it last year. It was
every now and then you get like an Anthony Davis or a Kevin Durant who just explodes and wins it. But like,
Frank Mason the third.
Yeah, got at least 5'10". Gotta love it.
Buddy Hield.
Classic.
Frank Kaminsky.
Of course.
Flamed right out.
Yeah.
Doug McDermott.
Is he? Yep, he's in Indiana. Saw him today.
He had a really nice career. Trey Burke, another
classic.
Anthony Davis.
Yeah, so you get the Davis. I bet Durant won at some point too.
Jimmer Fredette. No Durant.
Oh man, no Durant.
No Durant.
Oh wow.
Evan Turner. Evan hasn't hit a 3-pointer in 2 months.
We'll get into Portland. We talked about Portland before and how Jake Layman's not going to give up his minutes. He didn't. Evan Turner did.
Here's one for you, and this is a guy we're going to talk about at length. Blake Griffin.
Love it. Love to see it.
And then there's, Tyler Hansbrough. Oh, okay, here's Kevin Durant.
Psycho T.
So here's a stretch of successful NBA players. Ready? Kevin Durant, J.J. Redick, Andrew Bogut.
I mean, you can only categorize J.J. Redick as a really successful role player. He's found his niche perfectly, and he is very successful.
But he's made a long career out of being a very successful role player.
He's not going to be an all-star.
No.
Except for that one year when Kyle Korver made the all-star team in Atlanta. But if that happens, sure.
You got KD. You got Bogut, who's a champion.
Solid player.
If he doesn't break his leg.
Definitely a good player.
You got...
Who's the number one pick Durant's year? Was that? That was Oden. Yeah, Greg Oden.
Yeah.
Who got his degree today. Shout out to him.
Good for him.
Got honored with getting his degree later, but received some kind of thing today at senior day.
Boy, oh boy, TJ Ford.
Shout out to TJ Ford.
There's Jason Williams. That's a good one. Shane Battier, my goodness.
Jason Williams for me is like the what could have been. Like, I loved Jay Will in college. He was insane. I'll never forget that 4-point play against Indiana. Like, that dude was special. And when he
yeah.
came out, I wanted him to be so good. Like, I wanted him. He was like, Jay Williams. I miss that. If only.
Yeah,
He balled out in that celebrity game. He's still doing it.
This Naismith list is something. Tim Duncan. There we go. That's besides KD, that's the first, like, all-time elite.
Wake Forest. Danny Manning's got Wake Forest not really rolling, but playing okay. Found that out this week that Danny Manning was coaching Wake Forest. Apparently he's been there for a while, but I found out this weekend.
Not a college basketball
Nope.
guy. No, but getting into Michigan and Michigan State, that was just a fun game. Like, it was a fun event. Izzo said that it should be the last game of the year every year.
That's great.
I agree.
I think that's great.
I think it definitely should.
I
whether
remember
it's there
like
or
a couple
Ann
of
Arbor.
years when I was there, it was like they played Ohio State on the last day for a title at one point. They play, like, anytime they're playing for a title at the end, it's cool.
yeah.
But if it's Michigan, it's just like way better.
Right, and especially with how consistent both teams have been at playing for a Big Ten title.
For sure.
Go for it. I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, at least like for the next couple of years.
So the good news is, all right, so next week you're in Chicago.
I am.
I will go much more in depth into the college game when you're gone because, as you said, you're not a college guy.
Right.
I have a friend coming in to help me.
He knows much more than I do about the college game.
He certainly does.
He knows much more than a lot of people.
Goes by the name of Rico Beard. He's going to come in and give me a hand going over Michigan State and their path in the NCAA tournament, which I think they're going to get a 1 seed as long as they win at least one game in the Big Ten tournament.
I think so. That's another quality win to end it.
Yeah, I think they have the quad 1 wins, and I think they're going to get the double bye. They're going to win one game, and then they're going to have a semifinal where they have like a Maryland or something. I think as long as you win,
Maryland was in the Big
as
Ten.
long as you win those 2 games, I think you'll be all right. And then God willing, if they win the Big Ten tournament, they're for sure a 1.
No doubt.
Which right now Lenardi has him projected as a 2, and he has him playing 3-loss Houston as of the 3 seed, which absolutely terrifies me.
Houston's good. He's got Kelvin Sampson in Houston.
Yeah, and it would be
That's allowed.
That's
a thing that's okay.
Yeah.
Kelvin Sampson's still allowed to coach.
It would be the Sweet 16 matchup between Michigan State and a 3-loss Houston.
Just real quick side note, that's what I love about college basketball. They just keep letting that guy have a job. Like, you know who he is. But yeah, 3-loss Houston, whoever it is, I'm always worried until Izzo wins. Like, once Izzo's in a groove, I'm good. Once I feel like Izzo's good.
Oh, no, it's Dana Holgerson. Oh, no, that's football. What am I looking at?
100% football.
Yeah, I'm out of my mind. All right, hold on. Now I'm messed up.
I mean, like, that's just so clear. That's almost as good as Larry Brown coaching SMU.
Yeah, Kelvin Sampson's still the head coach. That's fantastic.
Classic.
Yeah, Larry Brown at SMU. By the way, I got into a wild argument about never mind, I don't want to touch it. It was it was like a list of teams that could beat the Warriors, and it was like
God.
the 08 Celtics, the 12-13 Heat. And I was like, the 12-13 Heat, maybe.
Not the 08 Celtics would not have been in the finals if Chauncey Billups didn't roll his ankle.
The best was the 03-04 Pistons. And I'm like, there's no fucking way.
They couldn't beat them, but, man, I would love to see how they defended them.
You know,
just to see it.
You know, the 03, it'd be scary. Dude, they never ran into a center that could shoot threes. They'd be thinking they were looking at a myth.
They got Mehmet Okur, though. They could keep up.
Oh, boy.
Rashid could shoot threes.
Well, yeah, they had, like, the originator of the stretch 4.
I mean, like, Ben Wallace and Draymond immediately cancel each other out because they're essentially the same guy, except Draymond's infinitely better on offense. Like,
not this year.
I mean, Ben Wallace can't pass like Draymond.
Yeah, true. That's absolutely.
Ben Wallace didn't take the rebound and start the break.
It's also, I would
dribble.
even rather have can't shoot for shit Draymond taking a 3 than Ben Wallace.
Ben Wallace would not take a 3. That would not happen.
It's a no-brainer.
Like, I love Ben Wallace. He should be in the Hall of Fame, but the guy couldn't dribble. Like, that just is what it is.
I like the 03-04 Pistons versus the Warriors.
Tayshaun Gardner-Durant. Who's guard? Rip and Clay would
couple of
Clay
lanky
would be
guys.
Almost as good as the 04 conference finals with Reggie and Rip. Like, that's just fun.
And then you'd have Steph playing absolutely no defense on Chauncey, but just ripping him on the other side of the floor.
Chauncey's like, I think he could break down their defense. Like, Chauncey is as good a floor general as there was in the early 2000s.
Sure. It's just a different style of basketball.
For sure. The Pistons won like 3 of those games in the conference finals against Indiana and held Indiana under 70.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Not under 80, not under
Reggie
90.
Miller Pacers under 70
They were scoring in the
points.
60s.
It was that's where somebody was like, that was the most fun team I've ever watched. I'm like, I don't know, man. 74-69 was not my idea of
The
fun.
highlight of that series is Tayshaun Prince's block.
Yeah, seriously. And that's like the highlight of the Golden State Cavs series is also a block, but it's
right. But yeah, all the ones that Golden State wins, the highlights are not blocks. They're launched threes from Kevin Durant when he walks up and buries it in your eye.
I have a fun fact about those Pistons too, and it is that if they played in today's NBA and you just translate the stats, they would finish dead last in offensive rating.
Yeah, but they're first in defensive rating.
They would be first by a mile
by a
in defensive
shot.
rating, but they would also be dead last in offensive rating.
Probably. The offense they ran, I mean, they just walked it down and ran an offense every time. They didn't run.
No, there was no transition.
Like, no.
Zero transition.
Let's post sheet. Let's run rip off a screen. Let's see if we can get Chauncey a backdoor three. Like, something.
So let's go over to the NFL. We'll get back to the NBA, as we always do. But Antonio Brown did the Anthony Davis, and it actually worked.
I was shocked.
Like
that they let him announce the trade, too, is utterly shocking.
There were players on Twitter congratulating him. And way to put it to them. Dude, that 2020 lockout is going to be something. I mean, 2021, whatever it is.
Stretch into whatever year it starts, it's going to last another year. There's going to be a season without football at some point.
I am wholly prepared. Yeah. And I think the XFL and the AAF also are aware of that.
Oh, yeah, they knew it.
And they're trying to piggyback into the NFL is going to miss a season.
For sure.
Let's take advantage. Because the way that especially now that Antonio Brown did this, you have the worst owners in sports. You have the worst players association in sports.
Yeah.
And you have players that are actively looking for some sort of competent representation.
Drew Rosenhaus.
If kneeling for the flag, for the anthem is still an issue, they will never solve that lockout. We might never have NFL football again. It literally might last forever.
Who's the players rep as president of the Players Union? I don't even know who it is.
Not Chris Paul.
No, well, I can't even think of who it was for the other lockout. Was it Peyton Manning? It doesn't seem like it was Peyton Manning, but that was the first thing I think of. I know it's DeMaurice Smith, or however you say his name.
Yeah.
But,
President Eric Winston.
I don't even know who that is.
Who the fuck is Eric Winston?
That's who you got leading your union.
That's a guy there's no way that he ever saw a snap on an NFL field.
I don't know who Eric Winston is. And granted, I'm not the biggest football guy, but I think I know enough to know the good ones.
Eric Winston sounds like an obscure owner. Okay, he's football offensive tackle.
Good for him.
He played for Cincinnati.
Good for him.
Currently a free agent.
Not so good for him.
Must be a really great guy.
I bet he is.
But
I bet he's a lovely gent. But
this is an issue with the NFL is you have a completely unrecognizable.
He's not Chris Paul, you just said it.
Yeah, yeah. The NFL has, or the NBA has a star heading and
a really, really well-spoken star.
Yeah, one of whatever you think of him in a locker room, he's a really good.
His mouth.
He's a really good players association.
I may hate Chris Paul. I do hate Chris Paul. As a player, I think he's a dirty guy. But I listened to JJ Redick's podcast with him the other day, and the whole time I'm sitting there man, he's funny. He's probably a really nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
I hate him as a player. I think he's dirty. I don't like
dirty.
him. But
and they say that he's not great in the locker room. But to have Chris Paul and Jaylen Brown be your executive branch of the NBA Players Association is
Wake
excellent.
Forest and Cal. Those two schools.
Really smart guys.
Pretty good schools.
And for the end, I don't know where Eric Winston went to college. University of Miami.
Solid. It's a good school, known for not being a good school, but is actually a pretty good school.
Also known for being
the seventh floor crew.
Outwardly illegal football program, but
well,
so
everybody has their issues.
But I think that the NFL just needs to put recognizable people. The fact that Antonio Brown is the guy.
My head flashed to Peyton Manning, not Peyton Manning.
Sure, and that's Antonio Brown being the guy that's flashy on the field, flashy off the field.
Facebook Live in the locker room.
Sure, and he's he has a crazy personality. That's kind of what you need.
Camp in a horse-drawn carriage or something ridiculous like that.
And he's got all these wild outfits, but that's the fact that he's the one
James Harden
carrying the banner for the players is huge, I think, because he's so recognizable. Eric Winston could come out and do the same thing, and
Eric
they'd be
Winston could be sitting right next to me, and I wouldn't know that it's Eric Winston.
Yeah, that's you need a recognizable person in that position, and that's part of the issue. Like you said a week ago, they have the worst players association
a horrid
in sports.
Union.
The fact that union allowed the franchise tag to exist is reprehensible.
The fact that they can't collectively bargain marijuana is reprehensible.
Also reprehensible.
In that sport.
And then it's
you
like,
saw what's his name from Dallas this week quit on Instagram Live, smoking a joint. Like,
Yeah, he
no, I'm
said-
done with this. I'm not taking opioids. They won't let me do this. I'm out.
by the way, all-time flex.
Good for him.
Like, yeah, just to get on that video and go, look, I'm smoking a blunt because I don't
Because I don't want to get addicted to opioids.
I don't want to be on Vicodin for
and
the rest
also,
of my
I
life.
won't feel pain anymore if I smoke it. That's just, I mean,
It was a
good
great
for
move.
him.
It was a
Like,
great
yeah.
move, and that's like it's what the NFL needs. It's just more personality, more like they are the no fun.
I don't
league
think they
for
need
a
more
reason.
personality. They need to allow their personality to come out. Like they have personality, but football from like the very beginning of when you're like first playing. I remember the first day of my freshman football career, which was my only year playing football ever, and I'm not even sure you could call it a year. Like the first practice, I was like, yo, why do I have to talk to my coach like he's a drill sergeant? Why can't we just have a conversation? Like I played basketball and baseball. I can
Sure.
just talk to my coaches. Like this guy wants me to like basically yell at him.
We are talking about a sport where owners have said you
just
can't
make
let
you
the
a robot.
prisoner.
Yeah,
you
like-
can't let the prisoners run the asylum.
They just from the very beginning in football, when you start playing football, they try to make you a robot.
Absolutely.
Like, that's what they do.
It is, and it's just I just think that like they are making so many mistakes as far as how they handle players, and it honestly might be good for the league that Antonio Brown pulled this off.
It's great for the players.
It's great for the
Like,
players, and as I'm 100% in support of the players all the time.
I always say,
except
don't side
for-
with billionaires, people. Don't just side with billionaires because you think they're right and you're mad at the players. Like, don't just side with billionaires.
Because it's like, do you want to side with billionaires or do you want to side with millionaires?
Like, you
I know
think-
both
yeah.
are bad, but like the players are
Which
getting
one do you
actively
think
exploited.
is really bad? Like, which one do you think is really the one behind the strings? Like,
Particularly in the NFL, players are actively exploited.
yeah, 100%.
And like, yeah, the guy
They put
coming
their
out.
bodies on the line
God,
16
I can't
times
remember.
a year.
I can't remember his name, but the fact that he came out and said, "I don't want to get addicted to opiates," that just says it all.
Daniel Jones, David Jones, something
Yeah,
like that.
I think it was Daniel. But it's like, why is this still existing in the
Yeah,
league?
they prescribed me Toradol shots. They prescribed me all this, but I'm not allowed to smoke a joint.
Didn't Pat McAfee say Toradol shots were the best part of playing in the NFL?
Probably. That wouldn't shock me for a pet. Did he get the Monday Night Football gig? That needs to
I
happen.
hope. Yeah, I seriously hope.
That'd be amazing.
We do have a question about the Lions. Let me get who it came from.
It's going to suck. Like, that's the answer. Whatever the question
Sure.
is, if it's involved with the Lions,
Don't get your hopes up.
bleak should be the outlook.
So it was on Twitter. It's from Trevor Monroe.
Shout out to you, Trevor.
Oh, no, excuse me, Al Johnson. I got the Pistons question.
mind,
We're
Trevor.
getting to
We
you,
don't even
Trevor.
care about you yet.
We're getting to you, Trevor. Al Johnson, who should be the number one free agent target for the Lions?
Thank you for the question, Al.
We appreciate it.
I said Landon Collins last week. I'll stick with that. I mean, I guess I said Le'Veon Bell, but that was just like a pipe dream.
Well, yeah, and we're playing in Fantasyland. Dave Burkett
Right.
said the same thing this week. He's like, it's fine if you want to say that, but you're living in
Yeah,
Fantasyland.
it'd be awesome, but no, it's not going to happen.
No, I'm wholly with you. Like Landon Collins is
Yeah.
a no-brainer for me. The fact that he plays in the box as a safety, he'd be perfect in a 3-4 scheme.
Though I'll tell you what, that Anthony Barr trending on Twitter yesterday had me very happy.
Oh, absolutely.
I was on board for
I
that.
would love to see Anthony Barr. The other one, and just a few hours ago, really, as we're recording this, is the Chiefs released Justin Houston.
Ooh.
Justin Houston would fit this scheme.
I don't know if I want him more than Barr. Or if I don't know which
Well,
one
I don't think I
better.
want him more than Collins, but it's like, do you want to pay $17 million a year to Trey Flowers, or do you want to give Landon Collins 10 and Justin Houston 7?
I definitely don't want to pay $17 million to Trey Flowers.
I absolutely don't. And now, like, you can't even look at me and go, you just want to keep Trey Flowers for yourself.
No.
We just got Michael Bennett,
No,
who has
you're
a
good.
higher
Yeah,
upside.
you're set. You should pay Hightower. That should be it.
Oh, absolutely.
Only pay Hightower.
The problem is I love
if
Hightower
they're not
so
paying
much.
Hightower, I'll take Hightower. Like, yeah, now.
Dude, he's a very good and he's one of those guys nobody talks about for some reason. Dude, he's so good.
Yeah, like I'll take him over Anthony Barr. Like, let me maybe backtrack that a little bit. Give me Dante Hightower.
See, I like Anthony Barr. I just don't know, as an edge rusher, which is what you would be paying him to come and do, if he's going to be productive enough to be worth it.
He did separate Aaron Rodgers' shoulders, though, so he's a good guy in my book.
I think he's also lower risk than a Trey Flowers would be.
Probably.
So, and that's playing in huge to my take on that, because I think Trey Flowers, for the money and for the team that he's coming from, and
Got a
like
pedigree.
I want to, and I
Culture
want to
fit.
dispel with the idea, like, because I've made the argument, look, you don't pay for high-profile Patriots players, and then people are like, no, the Patriots don't pay anybody. They're just cheap. They just go the low route. Dude, they gave Stephon Gilmore $65 million,
Worth
and
it.
31 of it guaranteed.
Worth it.
Yeah,
Like,
if they think a player's good, they're
should have been
going to
Super
pay
Bowl
him.
MVP.
They will pay him. And so, like, the idea that they're not going to pay Trey Flowers just because they're cheap. No, they're not going to pay Trey Flowers because they know his career high sacks is 7.5, and it's not going a whole lot over that.
No, and you're going to get pretty solid production on Michael Bennett.
Yeah,
for a lot
and then you
less
get
money.
Michael Bennett for a 5th-round pick, and you saved yourself $10 million in cap. It's like that. They're not cheap. They're just smarter
Which you
than
can
other
use
teams.
for Dante Hightower.
It's exactly. That's more money to give back to him, and that's a guy who, again, they will prove
They'll
that
pay
they're
him
not
if he's
cheap,
worth it,
and they'll pay him. Like, that's it. But if he's not worth it, he's going to go somewhere else, and he's going to do
He's not
nothing.
going to be very good.
Because
I think
Chandler
he
Jones,
is, but yeah.
Chandler Jones is the exception, not the rule. And
Sure.
then you have people coming that are like, well, what about Logan Ryan? And I'm like, dude, Logan Ryan was the 3rd corner in this scheme. Like, what do you mean? He's not a high-profile Patriot.
No.
He was just, dude, you're 3rd in our depth chart, and we're not going to use you much, so go on your merry way.
Yeah, I mean, they basically did that with Malcolm Butler.
And I don't know what Tennessee's paying Logan Ryan, but I'm sure it's too much.
Yeah.
Like, that's the issue is you got to pay, Logan Ryan 3 years at $30 million. I'm not paying Logan Ryan $10 million a
That's
year.
a Vrabel signing.
It sure is.
Yeah.
And that's just a year of Patriot signing.
Yeah.
All right, so if we want to go back to the NBA, get home,
Let's.
get more into it. I want to do teams that we haven't talked about too much. But before we do it, I think we have to go over the 2 teams that that just keep providing content.
Okay.
And the first one is the Lakers.
Like, at what point can we stop talking about them?
At what point are they going
They're
to
done.
stop
Like, they're
forcing
done.
us to talk about
They're
them?
for sure done. Like, it's over.
If they didn't have LeBron James, we would not mention them.
It's not even that if like
But really, if they didn't have
we would
LeBron,
maybe mention them, but not to the context of like this is a massive organizational failure. Like we've said it for 3 weeks now. Like you are missing the playoffs with LeBron. You're not missing a top 4 seed. You're missing the playoffs with LeBron James.
Yeah.
That is glaring. That is on you. Someone has to come out and take responsibility. Magic Johnson said 2 years ago, if I don't have this thing right in 2 summers, I'll walk away. Are you going to walk away?
he needs to. Like if he wants to hold up to it, he needs to walk away.
Like the details of how many bad decisions after bad decisions, and even compounded with like, well, let's make it a little bit worse and like desperately try to get a shooting play at the end with Reggie Bullock and Mike Muscala and give up a really good young center and Zubats in the process. Every decision they have made has been just like at the very least questionable.
Even like getting Reggie Bullock as a rental for Svi is a mistake.
And Zubats,
And it's good. It's good for the Pistons, not good for the Lakers.
No.
Because now you've gotten Reggie Bullock as a rental to miss the playoffs, and you gave up on Svi, who's shot
21
and shot 40% from 3 in college.
Like he's very young. He's a 4-year college guy who's still only 21 years old.
It's and I've said before, I think the most reprehensible thing that Magic Johnson ever did, and there are plenty of moves, but to me, the most reprehensible thing he ever did was he went and aired out and telegraphed that he was taking Lonzo Ball with the 2nd pick. He let everyone in the world know. He did it so much so that the Celtics were completely comfortable in trading out of the 1st down to the 3rd to get the swaps with Philly, which now they can use those draft picks and the guy they took in Jason Tatum to stop the Lakers from getting Anthony Davis.
And it's glaring, but like I don't even have that as like a top 3 worst decisions he's made so far.
If it leads directly to the Celtics getting Anthony Davis,
Sure,
and the Lakers not getting
when
him.
it comes back around, we can rejudge it. But like for me, letting Lopez walk for the same contract you gave a guy who is now playing in China, bringing in Rondo and letting Randall walk.
And the fact that Lopez
That's
is now
the same AAV.
Yeah.
Randall and Randall. Like Randall since Anthony Davis went out to averaging like 28 a game.
and Brook Lopez has had an incredible
Brook
season.
Lopez has been the missing link in Milwaukee. How badly do you need a big center who can protect the rim and shoot? D'Angelo Russell is an all-star in Brooklyn.
And it's the biggest thing that the Lakers are missing to me is what every LeBron team needs, spacing. It's something that Brook Lopez provides in spades.
I really would love to know. I would love to have been a fly on the wall on that meeting when they said, we're going to surround you with playmakers and not shooters. We're going to bring in Lance Stevenson. We're going to bring in Rajon Rondo. We're going to bring in Michael Beasley. And you're not going to have to make plays anymore, and we'll figure out the shooting part later. And that's not the blueprint for a LeBron James team.
I think maybe we treat LeBron unfairly here because everybody just assumes that he had a role in hand-picking Rondo and Michael Beasley and JaVale McGee. I'm sure he did.
I don't think you can bring those guys in without talking to him, especially Lance.
Oh, absolutely. But I also think it's like It's Magic Johnson, and you have to assume Magic's not just going to give full control of the roster to somebody else.
It's Magic Johnson. It's Jeannie Buss.
Yeah.
That needs to be addressed. Her saying the media is the biggest enemy to the Lakers. She said that at Sloan last week. The media, the fake news is the biggest enemy to the Lakers. What kind of willful ignorance are you trying to peddle to your fan base? You have a multi-billion-dollar local TV deal. These people pay ridiculous amounts of money for cable to watch your games, and you're up here telling them the media, not you guys, not that you have made terrible decisions in your hiring process over and over and over again. Somebody has to be held accountable.
That was embarrassing with Jeannie, especially when you consider that you can't go, it's the media. When you have LeBron James, the superstar who has handled the media better than any superstar has in history.
And I don't want to stand up here and torch carry for the media. I'm not trying to defend them. That's a ridiculous statement on her end.
I think the media does. I think they participated, and I hate to say the media because I think to some extent we are the media, but it's fair. The way that quotes get twisted sometimes. What happened to Jaylen Brown when he said that losing is toxic, and the headline came out and said Jaylen Brown said the locker room is toxic. He was going through liking tweets where people were saying that's not what he said. Yeah, it was like to that extent. I do think that they add to locker room toxicity a little bit.
But Kyrie said that. He was absolutely right.
Sure. But you have a superstar in LeBron James who was raised in basketball in the social media era.
Kyrie is a superstar.
LeBron James is an icon.
LeBron is basketball personified from 2002 on.
I think that the argument that he's the greatest basketball player of all time is out the window. Like, he's not going to achieve that anymore. I think the argument that he's going to be the greatest personality, ambassador, and
so many things. He's done more off the court than Jordan.
Sure, absolutely.
Has done in his life. In his career, he's done more. But, you could even say, he may not have had the greatest career of all time. Jordan may be the GOAT in terms of career, but LeBron is probably the best player that ever played.
Oh, yeah, in his prime.
He's going to finish top 5 in assists and scoring.
I think this season has been a bit of a damaging mark on his legacy. The way that he's handled,
he has to wear some of that blame.
Sure, the way that he's handled going top 10 and scoring and assists on a night where you lost to the Grizzlies,
and yet missing 18 games. I get it. You're getting old, and that's not your fault. Things happen. Your body, but you have to wear some of it.
At 34, we go, you're getting old. Well, at 34, Jordan played 82 games. He was all-NBA defensive first team. He was all-NBA first team. He was league MVP, finals MVP, and a champion.
He didn't play as many seasons. And he also took some time off.
That's fair, but he did also play 4 seasons of college.
Correct. But another thing...
And I know that he didn't maybe choose to take the time off, but I get that. But it's still dude, if LeBron took 2 years off right now and then came back, do I think he'd be as good as he was 2 years ago?
My one question that I have about LeBron, where could he have gone outside of LA that wasn't Cleveland where it worked? Where it fit, where it was that makes sense. Where was he going? You can't really take him to Philly. It wouldn't have really worked. Where would he have gone? Because ideally, when everybody said last year he's not going to LA, he'll never leave the East. So who was the team in the East? Was he going back to Miami? Where was this was kind of the only move if he wanted to make a move. And everybody said, why are you going to the West? It's going to be so hard to get out of the playoffs. Didn't realize it was going to be that hard to get into the playoffs.
Absolutely. And that's where I'm thinking about it now. In the best basketball situations that were slightly realistic, obviously would have been Boston, Golden State.
But he can't go there.
Right.
He just becomes the guy who's going to a team that's already ready.
Right, and that's where that damages the legacy.
So where's he supposed to go? Sacramento?
Oklahoma City. You're not going to go to that market. Indiana, you're not going to that market.
It doesn't. He was in Cleveland. It doesn't matter what the market is. He's a star anywhere. But
could he have gone back to Miami?
I think
maybe that would have been the option.
I thought that was the one thing. It's okay, you won yours in Cleveland. I'll go back to Miami and get a statue. Because right now you have your jersey in Miami. No doubt. They're going to retire your jersey. He won 2 MVPs, 2 finals MVPs.
He's getting his jersey retired there. He's getting his jersey retired in Cleveland.
No doubt. But he's getting a statue in Cleveland. He could have also got a statue in Miami had he gone back. He's not getting a statue in Miami. D-Wade is.
Oh, well, it's Wade County.
Yeah.
How could he not? Yeah. But no, I think that if you look back at it, could LeBron going to LA be one of the greatest basketball mistakes in history? Sure.
Only if you think he went there for basketball.
And I don't. And that's where it's I know you went there for the lifestyle. You could have had that lifestyle in South Beach. You couldn't have done the Hollywood stuff. And that's where it's you can't promote Space Jam 2 the way you want to do it.
Why don't you play for the Clippers?
You can't. Sure. They have a better basketball situation.
Way better basketball situation.
But then Kawhi Leonard goes to the Lakers.
He's always talked about, I want to play for an elite coach. I've never played for an elite coach.
Doc Rivers.
Which I think is a load of shit because Eric Spoelstra is an elite coach.
Sure.
but maybe he became an elite coach while he was coaching LeBron. Maybe he didn't play for an elite coach at that level.
Well, and
but
I
Doc
always
Rivers
argued
was right there. You're right.
I always argued that when Eric
Doc Rivers is
Spoelstra,
an elite coach.
absolutely.
Like,
well, he won the title with the Celtics.
Yes.
He took him back to another. Then he went to LA, and he's weathered losing his best player. Pretty
his
good.
biggest mistake was telling Tim Duncan he couldn't bring his wife on the plane.
True. No, but I think when Brown was in Miami, my argument for Eric Spoelstra was, look, ego management is really hard.
Yeah,
it's
hell
why
yeah.
a lot of people go.
Those 3 dudes went into Riley's office and asked him if he wanted to coach. You think they told Spoelstra they were going up there?
Yeah.
Like, no.
Ego management is that's why when people are like, look, Steve Kerr, I don't know if he's an all-time coach because look at the talent he's had. Do you know how hard it is to look? Do you know how hard it is to look at Steph Curry and go, "Hey, I know you're the greatest shooter of all time, but sometimes you're going to have to defer your shots to Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson."
Yeah, that guy playing with you, he's the second greatest shooter of all time, so you got to let him shoot too.
And that other guy playing with you is the greatest scorer
Pure
we've
scorer
ever
that's
seen.
ever lived.
So you're
like,
going to have
I know
to
you want to
defer
shoot
sometimes.
23s a game, but you can only shoot 12.
And then to tell Klay Thompson, who I'm sure has wanted to develop beyond just 3 and D,
I don't know, maybe. Like, who knows what Clay's thinking?
he's so good at it.
Oh,
He won't
yeah.
tell you what
Yeah.
he's thinking, but I'm sure at some point he was like, "Yeah, I'd like to touch the ball more."
He had a little
And
off
you're
the
like,
dribble step back over Jokic the other night that I was like, nobody realizes that's in his game.
which is,
like,
and again, that's like he could do that more, but Steve Kerr has to be like, "Look, you're gonna pretty much
you
just be
gotta
catch
be
and
Reggie
shoot.
Miller. Like, you got to
You're
be
gonna-
Ray Allen, Reggie Miller. That's what you got to do.
You're gonna be like catch and shoot,
And you'll
then
win a bunch of
lock down
championships
defense."
and be a first ballot Hall of Famer for it. And they'll build you a statue one day.
To look at Draymond and say, "Stop playing offensive basketball."
I don't think that was a hard sell for Draymond. I think it was like, all right, whatever.
That's true. Like his fuel when he came
Draymond's
into
got
the
his
league.
jersey retired in East Lansing. He'll probably get a statue there. They named the weight room after him. Granted, he gave him the money to do it. But still, like, he didn't need to have some unbelievable scoring legacy. He just needed to keep winning.
But the point is, like, I think there's a statement that if you have all this talent and you succeed with it, you are an elite coach.
Oh, he's definitely an elite
It's
coach.
part of where I'm stepping off with Brad Stevens because he finally has all this talent and he's putting together the worst coaching year of his career.
Yeah, look at Pop. I mean, it's tough to say Pop's having the best year of his career when you won 5 championships. But at the same time, like, he's taken a team that probably doesn't have any business being in the playoffs in the West.
And they're in the playoffs in the
playoffs.
West.
Like,
And they really,
and they're
like,
going to make it. Like,
we thought they were going to get all-star DeMar DeRozan. They have not gotten that.
He's been a different DeMar DeRozan. Like, people think he's not all-star DeMar DeRozan because he's not scoring 27 a night like he did in Toronto. But, like, the way he's really kind of fit with what they do, and, like, they haven't said, hey, remember, like, that last year in Toronto, Dwayne Casey was like, you got to shoot threes now. Like, he's not shooting threes. Greg Popovich is not making him shoot threes. Greg Popovich hates threes.
Yeah,
But
publicly hates threes.
he is like turned I always make the mistake and call him DeMarcus Rosen instead of DeMar DeRozan. But
It's easy. Like, it just
so
rolls easy.
Like, but he's become such a better facilitator than I ever thought he was.
So yeah, I agree. LeBron saying he's never played with an elite coach is bullshit. But
Yeah.
if you're looking at, I want to be in LA, I want to play for an elite coach, and I want to have a good basketball situation.
And a great owner.
Sure.
You haven't had one of those. Well, Mickey Harrison's a pretty good owner.
Do you want to go to the team that's got Doc Rivers, Tobias Harris,
And all the money in the
Boban,
world.
a lottery pick, a ton of money?
Dude paid cash for that franchise.
Or do you want to go to a team that has a questionable GM and president in Magic Johnson, Luke Walton, who nobody knows what the hell he is as a coach,
And the team where the family business is the team. That's it.
Yeah.
The money doesn't come from anywhere else for the Buss family. It's just the Lakers.
Is that where you want to be, or do you want to be in the less prestigious uniform of the two,
Yeah.
but the much better
Yeah,
situation?
like the situation is paramountly better.
And the fact that Kawhi Leonard is now like a reportedly done deal to the Clippers really says it all to me.
I mean, like, I don't blame them. Like,
They are
when
just
they made the move for Harris, I was like, okay, well, yeah, I guess they're going completely after. Like, you don't trade Tobias Harris unless you know you're getting somebody.
Tobias Harris and Boban.
Yeah, like, you're not moving those guys unless you know you've got them.
All right, the other team we have to get to is the Celtics, which these two teams played. The Celtics won handily despite a slow start, which was a little disappointing to see. Are the Celtics back? Is just the easy question for it.
Why? Because they beat Alex Caruso.
Well, I mean, you just
No, yeah,
The biggest
I
thing
get
is
what you mean.
you get the 33-point win in Golden State, the biggest margin of victory in a Golden State home game in a decade.
I don't weigh it that much for Golden State, so I
don't
feel like
either.
I can't weigh it that much for Boston.
I don't either, but the reason why I wait for Boston is I've watched this team all year. They come off a win like that on a back-to-back. They consistently lose to the inferior opponent on the next night. Instead, we got Gordon Hayward hitting
Without
a game-winning
Kyrie,
shot.
they beat Sacramento.
Without Kyrie.
Sacramento's in a playoff race. They're trying to win games.
Dude, and they're doing it pretty well.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, having Gordon Hayward play hero ball at the end of that game, I know he only had 12 points, but it was on, 50% from the field. In the 3-game stretch, he's shooting 70%. He had 15 against the Lakers. It's the most consistency I've seen from Hayward all year.
I mean, those 2 national TV games, I don't think they're the last 2, but 2 of the however many of the last ones they played, when he was in Philly and then this one in Golden State, and it's like, well, that's all-star Gordon Hayward. That's the one. Yeah. That's the dude from Utah.
That's the guy that we got for max money.
Yeah.
I also saw a stat, and this is to dispel all the notions of the Celtics with Kyrie are better or are worse than the Celtics without Kyrie. Kyrie hasn't been the issue. I think part of the issue has been, one, Jason Tatum developed way faster than the Celtics thought he would develop.
I think the expectation of Jason Tatum developed way too fast also.
That's more my point, is that he developed really fast, and I think he got these expectations where, oh, I'm a future MVP.
Yeah,
I need to start
not right now.
I need to start playing like an MVP then. And that's where he like fell into the Kobe style shots and the turnaround faders.
Spend the summer working out with Kobe.
Sure,
he'll do it.
And I think that I looked at a stat where he had the highest ISO percentage of any player on the team. I'm like, that when you
team with Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, and I'm like, Kyrie came in 36th in the league in ISO percentage, which was shocking. And then
I wonder what they're quantifying as an ISO.
I think it's just I mean, James Harden was first by a mile, so I think it was appropriate.
James Harden's leading the NBA in dribbles by like 20,000.
Like Damian Lillard was somewhere up there, John Wall was up there, LeBron obviously 6th, I think. And I looked at it, and Kyrie Irving's 36th, Jason Tatum's 34th. I'm like, the fact that your second-year wing player is leading your team in ISO possessions, not a good sign
That's
for his
almost
game.
a failure of coaching too, because you're not finding other ways to try to get him his shots.
You're not maximizing his minutes.
Like, yeah, you're just, all right, you get the ball now, go ahead.
That's why, I think part of the issue is Brad Stevens now has too much talent. He's never coached a team this talented.
No, he came from Butler.
Yeah, where Gordon Hayward was his best player. And college Gordon Hayward was not like an All-American
give
type
Sheldon
player.
Mack some credit here, all right? He's a good player.
He was good, but like,
no idea where he is now. I think he got traded twice at the deadline.
I feel like he's in Miami for some reason. I could be totally wrong.
I know he was in Washington and Orlando. No idea now, but yeah,
you're making me look it up.
He was one of those dudes who got traded like at
Charlotte
least twice.
Hornets.
Okay, there you go.
So Gordon Hayward, not a superstar in college, not an All-American type player in college.
They made a championship game.
Sure, but that's the best player Brad Stevens ever had. And it's like he's always excelled maximizing lesser talent. Mm-hmm. He's now kind of failing to maximize extreme talent.
Yeah.
But like having Gordon turn the corner is huge. I feel like the Celtics are riding out of disappointment and back into this team's probably going to go to the finals.
Morale will not coincidentally start to pick up when the playoffs come around for almost every team that's in a playoff spot.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean,
I think Golden State's in the same boat where people are looking at Golden State, and I'll talk about it in a little bit, where they're like, I don't think this is...
but it happens every year.
Right.
It's every year of, once the playoffs get here, they'll win their first 8 straight, and then it'll be in a 5-game, 6-game series with Houston, and they'll be back in the finals.
So enough of the teams that keep making us talk about them. We'll go to the teams we haven't talked about much, because I think it's unfair to 6 really good teams. Really good might be a stretch for one of them, but 6 good teams that we never, ever speak on. I know you love Portland, so that's where I want to start.
I don't love Portland as much as Charles Barkley loves Portland. I want that on the record. I do not think they're going to the finals.
I also want to say, I think that might have been a producer in his ear thing, because
no, but Kenny said it too. Kenny was like, yeah, I'm right there with you.
Again,
I was like, what?
But I think the two of them might have had a producer in their ear, because they said it 5 minutes after Antonio Brown to Buffalo surfaced. And I feel like producers were like, dudes, say something fucking crazy so that we keep ratings.
Charles, be Charles for 5 minutes, please. I love Portland. I talk about the versatility they have in all their different positions. All the guys they have on the bench do different things than their starters. And even like in their big men, Nurk and Cantor and Collins and Leonard, they all do different stuff. Like, yes, they can all do the same stuff if you need them to, but they all have different skill sets. And defensively, I never thought adding Rodney Hood would make you a better help defense team, but it has. Like, Jake Layman is a really good help defender, and he's way more athletic than people give him credit for. I wonder why. But They do a lot of really nice things. They're deep at all the positions they need to be deep at. They don't have to be that deep at guard because they can stagger those two guys. Like, it's okay to have Seth Curry as your backup lead guard.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's more than okay to have Seth Curry as your backup lead guard because the one thing that they miss on the second unit is three-point shooting.
Yeah.
Like, when Evan Turner comes into the game, you're not getting any threes.
No, you need Mo Harkless to be like every bit of Mo Harkless.
And that's where I think having a guy like Seth Curry is... You almost maximize your potential out of the backcourt because you have such a lacking backcourt off the bench.
Yeah.
But you have a guy, if you can set off ball screens and free Seth as much as possible, it's so hard to say
Losing
Seth. Losing
Shabazz Napier should not have hurt them as much as it did to start this year. Like, that's how thin they were at guard outside of Dame and CJ.
Right, and I think that their depth hurts a little bit. I think it's tough when you have Cantor, who can't spell defense.
Yeah, no, it's a tough one.
I think they're well coached, for one.
Terry Stotts, there were a lot of questions about whether or not he should have been fired last year. They have been proven wrong.
And I think having Yusuf Nurkic develop to the point where he is that LaMarcus Aldridge type of missing link that they haven't had since he left.
We got a side note, too, because when it got out of hand in Oakland the other night, Jeff Van Gundy ripped the 5x5 as a legitimate game. I think that's a very good game. We talked about it a couple weeks ago with Nurkic having a 5x5 game. Mm-hmm. Van Gundy was like, nobody cares about a 5x5 game. No, people care about a 5x5 game. That's impressive. There's not that many of them. Breen was gutting him heavy. He's like, there wasn't one in the NBA for almost 15 years. Those are impressive, and Nurk can give you a 5x5 game on any given night.
I agree, and he's just such a physical presence, and the fact that he's so good at what he does.
Yeah,
he's great on the glass. He's great at crashing to the rim. He's a good rim runner. He's kind of adds spacing.
He's got a little Lambeer in him.
Sure, and he does.
He fouls you hard if you come to the lane.
Yeah, very hard, dude. I saw him just annihilating the Celtics when they played.
He did no free layups.
No, not at all. Again, that's
I love
just
that in a big guy.
Being the son of a Bosnian riot cop. It's like he plays with a riot shield.
There are big guys that don't do that. Pleny of them.
Oh, absolutely. There's plenty. Boogie is one of them. Boogie's not throwing many hard checks lately.
Not so much.
And it's like, I think that I can see where Chuck's coming from because I get they have the formula with a really good big, with a really good backcourt. They have it kind of built. They have no bench depth, very little, especially as far as the 3-point game goes. And their bench defense isn't it's nothing to compete with Golden State.
If they get to the conference finals, it will be...
That'd be a massive success.
It would be huge success, but I also think it would be 75% based on the matchups and who they get.
Sure.
If they got the right teams, then yeah, maybe they could get there, but I don't see it.
It'll also take Damian Lillard stringing together the 12 best games of his entire career.
He'll have to be Dame.
He'll have to be the guy that scored 51 points and not the guy that got swept by New Orleans a year ago.
Yeah. I mean, he scored 40-something the other night and they lost to OKC.
Right,
so,
and that's and nothing taking from Portland for that because OKC is really good.
Yeah.
And Russell Westbrook has found his shot since the All-Star break.
Yeah, I mean, they're weirdly not winning as much as they should be either, but everybody had a weird week.
Paul George's shoulder is a real issue.
That's a concern.
Another team we haven't talked about nearly enough is the Indiana Pacers.
We can talk about the Indiana Pacers.
They are fucked. I was just kidding.
It's a tough look.
Their schedule.
It's tough.
Let me pull it up. I just put it on Twitter the other day.
I think something like 13 of their next 15 are against top plus 500 teams or something like that.
Not to mention,
or
they're
13 of their last 17. However many they have left, 13 of them are against plus 500 teams.
And they're all on the road.
Yeah,
that's the brutal aspect. So their last 2 games was at Milwaukee,
right? And at Philly today.
They lost. Mm-hmm. They have a breather at home against the Knicks. Then they welcome a hungry Oklahoma City.
It's going to be tough.
With, I have to assume, healthier Paul George.
Coming back to Indiana.
And then they go on an absolutely brutal road trip at Denver, at Portland, at LA Clippers.
In the mountains.
At Golden State.
You hate to start a road trip in the mountains.
Especially against a team that's as good at home as Denver.
Yeah.
I think that's 4 losses. Honestly.
They'll win one of them.
Maybe
somehow
at the Clippers.
They'll scrounge one out. Maybe Golden State won't care that night. Maybe they'll rest everybody.
I look at it and I think at LA and at Golden State are the 2 most winnable. But then you have Denver coming to Indiana. And then you have at Oklahoma City and at Boston.
It's a tough stretch. It's a really tough stretch.
Especially if they had Oladipo, it's maybe they can win 5 or 6 of them.
But it's kind of like, it goes back to people and misjudging that run they had when they left or when they lost Oladipo, and everybody's like, they haven't skipped a beat. And it's like, yeah, but they're playing really bad teams, and that always catches up to you in the schedule.
And this is honestly, it's one of the most
my worry
difficult.
with the Pistons.
Sure, but for the Pacers, this is one of the most difficult stretches of a schedule I've seen in recent memory.
Yeah, it's tough.
And you're already starting the stretch 0 for 2. You're going to be 1 and 2 because you have the Knicks, who are actively trying to lose.
And I'm not sure how banged up they are. I think there's a couple people in Indiana that aren't exactly 100%.
Sure, but then again, you then welcome Oklahoma City, Paul George coming back to to Indiana. That's a mess. At Denver, at Portland, at Clippers, at Golden State, versus Denver, at Oklahoma City, at Boston. That is a vicious stretch.
Especially for March, when you just want the season to be over and the playoffs.
When you're just ready to get into a series.
Teams that are fighting with you for playoff positioning, too. That's not fun.
Indiana is 1 game ahead of a very hungry Celtics team that just needs to secure home court.
I think that they lost the 3 seed today. I don't think they'll ever get back in it.
I don't either. I think that's going to the Celtics or the Sixers.
It'll be tough.
Denver has not brought, Isaiah Thomas got healthy. Not a great fit.
I have softened on Denver a lot. This is my team that I think the Spurs or the Clippers could beat in the first round. Whoever ends up in that 7 series, that could easily end up Denver could lose that. Just because you look at what's your playoff experience? Isaiah Thomas and Paul Millsap? Okay, those are nice pieces, but that's what you're relying on for playoff experience?
We're talking post-hip surgery, Isaiah Thomas.
And Paul Millsap's the 4th most important player on your team? 5th, maybe?
Isaiah Thomas might not be a top 5 most important player on the team.
Oh, he's not. They've had him for 10 games?
Not to mention, the last time he was in a playoff series against a good team, he was a negative 89.1 in 2 games.
I'm excited to see how Jamal Murray plays in the playoffs because he's got big game genes.
He does.
He can do that kind of stuff, but we'll see. When defense picks up, how much better is Gary Harris when everybody's really intensified?
Well, and I've seen Gary Harris, to his credit, I've seen him lock in.
I'm not knocking Gary Harris.
Absolutely. And that's where, I have in the past kind of been I don't know if this guy's developed to a point where he's going to give you what you need from him in the playoffs.
No, I heard last year, future Kawhi, and I was like, all right, come on.
This year, I've seen him lock in to points where I'm if he ups the intensity in the playoffs, he could be a really good piece for this team. But yeah, I think as far as the high seeds go in the West, Denver's the most likely to lose in the first or second round. Mm-hmm. I think if they do squeeze out of the first against a Clippers or a Spurs team that just wants to prove they belong, especially the Clippers, because the Clippers are trying to court Kawhi. If they beat Denver in the first round, they basically lock it up.
One thing about Denver that's a little underrated, it's not just Jokic that's a great passing big for them. Millsap's a great passing big, and whichever Plumlee, I think it's Mason. No, it's Miles. I don't know. It's Mason. I'm 100% sure it's Mason. But he's a great passing big, too. He's a very good passer. They have really great interior passing. They play inside out. Their guards move. They're never stationary on the floor. They do the right things on offense. They defend at a high level. They could win a series. I just said they could lose in the first round. They could also end up in the conference finals. You never know.
I would be kind of surprised. End up in the conference finals.
Be more surprised if they're in the conference finals than I would be if they lost in the first round.
I agree. Yeah, because I just think that as much as they're the 2 seed, I think a lot of that is driven by a lot of these the Rockets got off to a really rough start.
If I have to guess, though, it's a second round exit for Denver.
Sure. I think Oklahoma City's past the point where they care about the regular season.
Yeah. I'm very anxious to see what Utah does.
Utah, really rough start. Houston, really rough start. I think that's mostly why Denver has been able to hold on to the 2 seed for so long, is because these teams like Houston and Utah played themselves so deep into holes in the beginning of the year that they just couldn't climb back that high.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma City, every time they've come within shouting distance of the 2, they just blow their foot off. So
Utah's got an easy stretch coming up, but they've kind of stumbled to start it. But they just had a weird week. They lost to Memphis and New Orleans, and then they beat New Orleans, and they play OKC on Tuesday night. That's going to be a very telling game. But that's their last game against the plus 500 team this month, unless Brooklyn's still over 500 by the time they play them in a couple weeks.
All right, so let's rotate. Instead of to the East, let's go to Utah before we go back over to the Eastern Conference. We haven't talked about Utah hardly at all. Donovan Mitchell stopped being Kobe. That's a huge development.
He's
for that
so
team.
much better as a point guard.
Yeah,
and it's tough because you want to play Rubio because you have him, but man, he ups his game so much more when he's not on the floor. And also, Joe Ingles, Derek Favors, these are people that out of nowhere, all of a sudden, Well, maybe not out of nowhere.
Well,
but
we saw Joe Ingles lock up Paul George in a playoff series a year ago. So it's like maybe not out of nowhere, but I get the feeling with Utah is having Donovan Mitchell not going 4 of 25, 3 out of 4 nights is just massive. Everyone else knows their job. You have Rudy Gobert, who's the best rim protector in the league potentially.
Give Favors some credit for rim protection. Where's the stat I have on Favors rim protection? Opponents have hit 48.6% of their shots at the rim with Derek Favors nearby, the lowest figure among 151 players who challenge at least 2 shots a game. So when Derek Favors is as good as literally any rim protector and you have Gobert next to him, how are you going to score inside on that team?
Yeah, and I think that's huge. It gets troublesome for me when you go up against a team like Golden State that loves to score so much at the perimeter and in the mid-range when they don't need to attack the rim to be successful.
Favors has also hit 64% of his 2-pointers.
Which is big. And just for me, like Utah, I think they have a ceiling where as far as they can go is the second round.
Yeah, I mean, one of these years, right? They need that one guy.
It feels like one of these seasons. But it's so hard when you play in Salt Lake City.
They've got such a good coach, and they have all these intriguing pieces, young and old. Like, they have all these things that fit well. And if they just had that one more guy to get you over the hump, like, I don't know, Gordon Hayward. Like, man.
It's a lot of Jazz fans that really hate Gordon Hayward. But
where do they go have fun being LeBron's B-word?
Yeah, here's the issue for Utah, too, is like you have all those great things. You have great coaching. You have great young pieces. You have Rudy Gobert. You have Donovan Mitchell. You have Derek Favors. You have things that would be really...
And a rabid fan base.
Yeah. Yes, especially. You have things that would be really, really attractive.
Except
in Los Angeles.
Maybe like you could try and sell them on moving to Park City. It's very nice. It's one of the best resort towns in America. It's only like a half hour from the stadium or the arena. It'd be a little bit of a commute, but maybe...
I think there's 4 lines that are killing the Utah Jazz, and it is the borders of the state of Utah.
It's tough, man. It's tough. I don't want to live there.
Like they could be in Oklahoma City and it'd be more palatable. I don't know. It's not Mormon country.
You got good views in Salt Lake. Like you get nothing but tumbleweeds in OKC.
But it's not Mormon country.
Yeah, but man, I don't know. I think I'd rather live in Utah than Oklahoma City. Park City over Oklahoma City, no doubt.
All right, more palatable than Salt Lake City. Portland.
Yeah, for sure. I'll go to Portland.
Seattle. Maybe that's the solution for the Jazz. But
no, that's the solution for the Grizzlies. Let's not get rid of that.
You can't steal the Jazz
the Grizzlies
from that
need
incredible
to go back
fan base.
to the Pacific Northwest now.
Oakland, obviously. What about Sacramento?
I have never been.
The weather's better. Gotta be.
Is it? Like, I don't know. It's very northern California, isn't it? It's like even more northern than Oakland.
I think it's like Frisco weather still, though, where it's like 45 or 75.
Again, never been. Like, I can't tell you, but I can't imagine that Sacramento's a great place to live.
Salt Lake or Charlotte?
I like Charlotte. I bet I had a friend that lived there. I might take Salt Lake, though. I don't know. Charlotte was kind of tame. A little tame for my liking.
Yeah, James Harden
not that
struggled
Salt Lake
with the
would
All-Star
be so
game.
like unbelievably not tame, but like at least I'd have the views in Salt Lake. I go snowboarding. I'm not very good at snowboarding.
Salt Lake or Atlanta? I think that's a no-brainer.
The traffic in Atlanta is horrid.
Awful.
Though.
Good fan base though.
Well,
if the team's good.
Yeah, if the team's good. Atlanta's known for like that, like just not quite a sports town unless the team is good.
Salt Lake or Detroit?
I'm gonna say Salt Lake. I'm gonna say Salt Lake. Why would you want to move here if you're an NBA player? Like it's just I know that they're one of like 6 teams that has 3 titles since '89, but like
the fan base sucks.
Yeah, like go to Salt Lake. At least they'll love you.
Speaking of Detroit, this is the last team in our teams we haven't talked about enough.
We've talked about them plenty in my eyes, but let's get into it.
I have a spicy take.
I'm very anxious to hear this.
And it stems from a question that we got on Twitter. And this is where our good friend, who I mistakenly mentioned earlier in the show, Trevor Monroe.
What's up, Trevor?
Trevor asked, if the Pistons make the playoffs, is the season a success? If the Pistons just make it to the playoffs, is the season a success?
I want to hear the take before I get into mine.
No.
Yeah, like I'm 100% with you there.
Because the season is already a success to me.
Oh, my God. Okay, let's hear it.
I'm going to tell you why.
Let's hear it.
The Pistons have done the absolute impossible as far as they could do, in my personal opinion. I thought this team was absolutely hopeless. I thought when they traded for Blake Griffin, they traded themselves out of the first round. They traded themselves out of a lottery pick. They strapped their cap between Drummond and Blake.
The lottery pick ended up being Jerome Robinson, who I like, but at the same time, I'll take Blake.
Well, it would have been Miles Bridges or Shea.
Jerome Robinson was the pick they used. They moved back and took Jerome Robinson. That's their second first rounder that LA took. They had Shea, Miles went, and then they had Jerome Robinson.
I swear we had the 12th, 13th. Either way.
Charlotte jumped up in front of them to get Miles.
Sure. I remember that, but I swear we had the Miles Shea pick. Either way.
Maybe it was Miles, but I don't know.
Either way.
I thought it was Jerome Robinson. If it was the
I'll
Pistons,
take
it would have been
Blake.
someone awful.
But it was still like I thought Blake's contract was going to be poisonous. I did not think we were going to get the best of Blake Griffin.
Well, let's pump the brakes because there's still 3 years left on it.
Sure. So far, we have gotten the best of Blake Griffin.
He has been healthy, which I think is the biggest part that you can look at this season and be like, Blake Griffin is going to play the whole season, hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, and not get a major injury.
And his game has developed outside of the interior.
Without a doubt.
Which is massive. No, I think this season's already a success because to me, I don't have a sense of dread every time I turn the TV on to watch the Pistons play basketball. I dare say I've gotten some amount of joy over the past couple weeks watching the Pistons play basketball games. I also dare say that arena has been semi-full.
Don't dare say that. That's not true.
And kind of loud at times.
With Toronto fans?
The Toronto game, sure, it was Raptors
full for
fans.
That game.
It feels like there's a little more buzz than there has been about this team in quite a while.
When Greg Kelser takes a shot at Valenti, that usually will happen on Twitter. I will say this.
Everybody's taking... There's Pistons blog boys that are like, Valenti doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. This is better to be successful.
Valenti knows what he's talking about.
But I want to get into why I think it's more of a success. And it's not because of this season. It's because they've made this offseason and next season seem less hopeless than I thought it was. And I thought that was going to be an impossible achievement.
Do you think this offseason doesn't seem hopeless?
I think as long as Stefanski doesn't do anything stupid, they're actually in a very good position.
What can he do that's stupid? Like, he's got no room to operate. No one wants Reggie Jackson.
But they might want the 17th pick, and that might convince the team to take Reggie Jackson.
I don't think that you're going to get... Well, maybe Reggie's got 1 year left after this, so maybe if it's expiring...
That's where I look at that.
That's why I don't view this season as a success. When you have... And I know I just said... like 2 minutes ago that it doesn't matter that they're one of 6 teams that have won 3 titles since '89. But the fact of the matter is that's 1/5 of the league, and you are in that top tier 1/5 of the league that has won 3 titles since 1989. That's 30 years. So you have won 10% of the titles in the last 30 years. On top of that, you have a situation with your salary cap that is just like mortifying if you really look at it.
Absolutely.
I mean, and you had it this summer. So when you are in a situation where you are spending that much money and you are up against the cap, you're not just supposed to be competing for the 6th seed. Like, if you're that far up against the cap and you've got 2 guys who you assume are all-stars, I know Andre didn't make it, and I don't think he's technically an all-star, but either way, you have 2 guys who you are paying to be all-stars and a 3rd guy who you are paying to be, at least at the very least, an all-star caliber point guard. Then you have to be a top 5 seed. You have to be in front of the teams like Indiana, who only have one such of those guys who doesn't make near as much as Blake does. You have to be competing with those teams, and they just aren't. And when you look at it, it's not for any other reason than they're just not that good. Like, they just don't have that many guys who are that great of players.
No, and I agree. But I look at this team, and I think
guys are way too excited about Luke Kennard.
I think locally the perception is more morbid than it is nationally. I think, and especially because I'm not really a Piston fan, I can take a different look at it where I get like Piston fans. Dude, I watch this team enough. I'm so sick of watching Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond. Yeah. And I get it. And I think fans specifically, though there aren't many of them, are completely burned on these 2 guys.
I'm like so sick of the broadcast team tiptoeing around it too and being like, the point guard position isn't the same if Fish isn't here. They need it to round the point guard. Just say he sucks. Just say that Reggie Jackson isn't worth it.
I understand that animosity and why it's there and why it exists, and I think it should exist. But I do think, and it is dependent on what they do in the offseason. It is like, don't do anything dumb. Don't go sign somebody.
Don't have that much room to do anything.
Yeah, I know, and there's very little elbow room. But that's where I know, like the 17th pick. One, it's not it's not a lottery pick, so it's not like I covet it that much. There are teams that would like that 17th pick.
Sure,
and if you
Golden State will give you $3 million for it.
And if you can attach Reggie Jackson and John Lure to 17, get those two out of here, free up a little bit of cap space, and then maneuver something even like a mid-tier player in free agency.
I'll tell you what, if Stefanski can attach John Lure and Reggie Jackson to that 17th pick, I will sing the praises of Ed Stefanski. I promise you. I'll buy an Ed Stefanski jersey. I will do anything you need me to. If you make that deal happen, if you find me a sucker who's taken that deal.
Because they just want the 17 and a couple contracts they can get out of in 2 years.
Yeah, Atlanta?
Seriously, the buyout pipeline.
Maybe, yeah.
No, I think
who's the sucker?
So that's why I'm at the point where I think this season is already a success, because a season ago, I didn't see any type of roadmap or any vision in which we would be at this point, and I would look at this team. I expected them to be the 6th seed. I expected them to be right around 500.
I said at the beginning of the year, if they make 6, 7, or 8, they're going to pop champagne.
I did not expect any situation in which I could look at it and go, there is something you can build on here. And if Blake can stay healthy for a few more years, I think there's something there.
But it's not even like you're building. It's not a slow build. You'd have to build right now. Because this is as good. Blake Griffin is not going to get better. He's 30 plus. He's a big guy.
This will be his ceiling.
This is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
And he may stretch it for 3 years, but this is as good as it gets.
And I also don't think that you're going to be competing for the finals, because I don't know that
you're not.
But you might compete to get to the Eastern Conference Finals,
which would be huge. It might spark basketball back in the city.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
That's what I think that's why I'm looking at it as a success. Is I think they're generating a little bit of buzz,
and I want to give them credit for that buzz.
They're getting fans back into the arena. They're getting fans interested in the team again.
I don't want it to sound like I'm just up here shitting on them. 12 out of 14 is something. They deserve credit for that. That is great. It doesn't matter who you're playing in the NBA. There are NBA teams every night. If you win 12 out of 14, kudos to you. I don't think that means you're a great team.
And I'm not, by no means am I saying they're a great team.
Right.
And that's where I'm lowering the bar for success for this team, because is just making the playoffs successful for the Celtics? Fuck no. God. Successful for the Celtics is get to the Eastern Conference Finals and win it.
But that's the standard you should hold yourself to when you're a team that's won 10% of the titles in the last 30 years.
But when you are a team, for me, it's when you're a team that was supposedly hopeless with zero future for the next 5 years, when you're a team that traded themselves out of the draft, handcuffed their salary cap, just really there was no roadmap for success, and all of a sudden it's just don't fuck up this summer and we might be pretty good.
And the thing is were you ever a tank guy for them?
Not really.
I was never a tank guy for them. I didn't want them to tank. I just wanted them to retool. I don't think what they have around Blake is as good as it can get around Blake. You need to tweak. You need to do some things. Blake came in on a whim. That deal, nobody even heard about that deal. It came out of nowhere. You got to get some guys who fit a little bit better around Blake than, and give Langston Galloway credit for making 12 straight threes. That's awesome. But, if Langston Galloway is your best option at a two-man game with Blake, you aren't going anywhere.
No. And that's Langston Galloway's played great. Luke Kennard's played great.
Luke Kennard's played great. He's still a turnstile on defense, but so is Reggie Jackson, and so is half the league. So
and again, that's where if you can just attach Reggie to a first-round pick and get him out of town, I think then this season is a success.
I would even be willing to attach Andre if you took John Lure and Reggie Jackson, because all of a sudden then you're playing with a ton of cap space. You can sign all the mid-level guys you want.
Dude, you don't got to twist my arm. If you can attach, if you can put Reggie and Andre on a pick and get them both out,
that'd be great.
Totally that is
cool with
that is
and
double
it's not,
success.
Not a knock on Andre. 17 straight double-doubles, and he's playing the best basketball. I still don't want him because what he does is antiquated and doesn't work for championship teams anymore.
No, it's
not a thing.
Yeah, Andre would have been amazing if you were playing in 1995.
You're not going to find a championship level team that pays their center $26 million, and maybe Philly, but look at what else they got around him.
He might end up being the all-time leading rebounder. He also may never see more than 3 all-star appearances.
I mean, he's got technically 2 right now, but 1 is an injury replacement, and he was the 3rd injury replacement. So,
and it's fans aren't going to be voting you in for your rebounding.
Dragic in as an injury replacement before they put him in last year. So.
And again, dude, you're not going to make the all-star voting at center when you can't shoot threes. We're in a new league.
You're Joel Embiid is not going anywhere, so you're never going to start the all-star game at center if you stay in the East, and you're not going to get out West. You're not a top 3 center. It's not going to happen.
No, you're not beating out Boogie.
This is what you are.
Yeah. You might I might even rather have Al Horford.
For less money, sure.
Yeah, and that's
fit next to Blake.
Absolutely. That would be a deadly combo.
That's another big reason that like Blake Griffin has been healthy all year. He hasn't had to bang. Like,
True.
he's not going after rebounds like he used to because he doesn't need to.
True. He does sometimes, and I see him get pissed when he's going after him, and then Andre,
he does. Every now
Andre
and then.
combats him with a
He wants his
rebound
triple-doubles every now and then.
All right, we're up against it with time. Let's do the power rank.
All right, you want to do speed round?
Yeah, we'll run through them. Number 5, I already talked about him a little bit. The Celtics have bounced back into my power rank.
I've got him at 5 also.
I think that they have the most potential to move all the way up this. They also have the most potential to fall out of it. Just with their inconsistency, like on some nights they look like the best team in the NBA, and on other nights they lose by 20 to the Bulls.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I put them in is because Portland, the Jazz, and OKC all had bad weeks.
Sure.
So that's why they're in.
The Celtics had a really, really good week where they
have
beat
a bad week.
Golden State and then a playoff pushing Sacramento.
Long plane rides can do wonders for teams. Shout out to Gilbert Arenas and Javaris Crittenden. They clearly didn't get that memo.
Side note, on the topic of local sports talk radio, someone in this city, it was Valeni, just said
big shocker there.
It just said that he was like angry that the Celtics got it together on a plane ride. He was like, "Don't give me that." I'm like, what do you?
Have you ever played Boo-Ray with millionaires? Because I bet you can get it together.
What do you care how they got it together? If they needed a plane ride, they needed a plane ride. All I care is that they keep winning games.
Sometimes playing Boo-Ray on a long plane ride works out, and you beat Golden State and Sacramento and LA 3 straight. And sometimes
you get back to the locker room
bring
and
guns to the locker room.
Yeah.
It can go both ways.
It's small margin for error.
All right, who's 4?
Toronto.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, they're a weird team to me.
Yeah, I mean, like the loss to the Pistons without Kawhi doesn't matter to them, and it doesn't matter to me.
I think we're at that point where the power rankings are kind of odd because the regular season at this point just feels so pointless for the top teams.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm at a point where I have 5 teams in my power rankings, and I'm comfortable saying these are the 5 best teams in the NBA.
And my thing with Toronto, too, is like they're at the 2, they could move up to the 1. They have 4 games left total against 500-plus teams, and that's only if Brooklyn's over 500 by the time they play them in April.
Sure.
Other than that, they play the Pistons one more time and OKC twice, and other than that, they don't play a single team that's over 500.
They haven't been great against Dwayne Casey.
No.
But it is.
I don't think they care as much as he does.
That's kind of my struggle with the power ranking right now is I'm giving you the top 5 teams at this moment, but it's like the Boston and Toronto could easily fall out of this list just as easily as they could climb up to 1 or 2.
Sure.
I think even if I did a top 15 power ranking, Boston, if they came in at 8 or 9 that week, they're still a top 5 team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
So number 3, Houston Rockets.
Okay. Oh, I have them at 2, but sure.
I'd love to put them up more. We'll get to my number 1, but damn, are they playing some good basketball?
Yeah, I mean, they've won 7 in a row. They're playing Dallas right now. They're up at the half. They look how they looked last year. Like that's really what it is. Chris Paul hasn't had the shot making quite come back yet, but he's moving as good as he's moved in years. The passing is as good as it's ever been. Capella coming back and getting solid play from the guys that they just scrounged off the wire this year. Like, you look at their roster and it's like, well, that guy wasn't on their team, that guy wasn't on their team, and those guys are giving them great minutes. Rivers, all these guys, like, can they stay healthy? That's the question with them always,
seriously.
Right? Like,
and if that's healthy? Where I was going to ask, if Chris Paul doesn't get hurt, is this a team that could give Golden State a run in the Western Conference?
Oh, we know
Finals?
They could. Like, they could at least give them a run. They were up
3-2.
Yeah, they could at least give them a run.
And that's number 2 for me is Golden State. And this is a year, and we're going to fight on this.
I had Milwaukee at the 3, but yeah, like I still have Golden State at 1.
Oh, and I have Milwaukee at the 1. And so I just think Milwaukee, the way they've played this regular season, is outstanding. I don't know that it'll translate to the playoffs, but as far as the regular season goes,
they're another team that only has 4 games left against plus 500 teams in March.
So we're going to fight on Golden State here, because I know that you know, or you think, and probably know, that they don't give a shit about the regular season. And
I think everybody knows that.
It's the same old story that we've always heard. Is this the team that can finally lose? And
are they vulnerable? Like, is this the vulnerable team? Can somebody take a shot at the throne?
I legitimately think this is the vulnerable team.
For who? Like, for the Celtics? Or you legitimately think Houston's going to beat them?
There are specific teams I think could do it. Toronto, Boston, Houston, and Oklahoma City.
Okay, the thing with me is they're only going to play either Oklahoma City or Houston. They're probably not going to have to play both of them. And that series, if those two teams have to play in a second round series, OKC and Houston, would be I don't know I don't know who's going to win that.
And it would be taxing on both of them.
Definitely.
And then they would have to go to
Harden.
Right.
Like,
and then they would have to go to Golden State.
And I still don't know who's winning that OKC Houston series.
I think out of the East, Boston would stand the best chance because I think if Boston plays as well as they're capable of playing in the playoffs, they could seriously get out of the East in 18 games.
I think Boston stands the best chance, but I'm more intrigued to see how Milwaukee would play them. Like, Milwaukee took it to them just like Boston did.
Them. They do manhandle them. My fear with Milwaukee is that they haven't been there before, and so you get to the playoffs and the game kind of shifts.
But it's that thing. It's the one guy aspect of it, right? Like, if it's one guy, who are you more afraid of, Kyrie or Giannis? Like, because everybody's always said about Golden State, like, who's the one guy that they're terrified of? And it's Anthony Davis. Like, Giannis is much more Anthony Davis-like than Kyrie. Clay can kind of play Kyrie. Draymond can kind of help and chip, and they can do things to take him out
but
and force the other guys to beat him. They don't have an answer for
Then
Giannis.
I look at the Golden State, like all their comments from Draymond and from Kevin Durant, and they're all like, dude, Kyrie is no fucking joke.
But they say the same things about Milwaukee, right? Like they said about Boston last year, oh no, they're not coming, they're here. They said that about Milwaukee. They're like, this is not a team that's coming. They're here now, and they're really good. When they came in and smacked them, that's what Draymond said. They're here. They're very good.
In a vacuum, I would take Giannis because I haven't seen.
Like I said, I think Boston has a better chance to beat them. I'm just more intrigued about how it would look with them against Milwaukee.
I'm just in a vacuum. I would take Giannis, obviously, because he's more do it all.
He's unworldly, otherworldly, however you say that.
Because I haven't seen him do it in the playoffs, I would take Kyrie because I've seen playoff Kyrie.
Well, but you've seen playoff Kyrie with LeBron.
And that's kind of where I'm going to elevate because I've seen playoff Kyrie where he's deferring to LeBron. Mm-hmm. I've also seen Game 5 playoff Kyrie when he took the fuck over.
He got to the basket like no 6'2" person should ever be able to get to the basket.
If we're getting animalistic Game 5 Kyrie.
I will never forget the Game 5 of just watching him relentlessly finish after ridiculous finish after ridiculous finish. I was like, how is he doing this?
He was a magician.
Like,
this is my thing with the Celtics that everybody's kind of skipping over is, no, we've never seen Kyrie in the playoffs without LeBron. I get that. That means we've never seen Kyrie in the playoffs without LeBron. We've never seen solo playoff Kyrie. Dude,
there's two ways to look at everything, right?
For all we know, there is a sleeping giant waiting to awaken in the playoffs.
It's true.
And that's kind of, I'm more afraid of Giannis on paper.
I'll say this about the playoffs, like, it's a half-court game, right?
Yeah.
Give me Kyrie in the half-court,
absolutely.
Not Giannis. Give me Kyrie every time.
And it's, like, I know Giannis is so effective at getting to the basket, but you even said we've seen their half-court defense kind of falter. We've seen their half-court offense kind of falter.
I said that in the second half of that Toronto game, earlier, like, that was alarming, like, how bad their half-court offense was. Bledsoe was non-existent.
Yeah, and it's like...
I've been singing his praises all year.
As deadly as Giannis is getting to the basket in transition... When you bring it into the half court and you have
bring guys to chip,
and then you have two guys who can throw a body at him at the rim, like Al Horford and Aaron Baines.
Tice can throw a body. Well, it didn't work out so well for Tice when he tried that one time, but
like that's where I almost am more afraid of Kyrie because he's so ball on string getting to the basket. He just finds a way,
and his shot making too. Like he could pull up from 15 and do some ridiculous spin move and have no room and somehow hit a floater,
or do what he did against Kawhi in that Raptors game and just like dribble into a 40-foot three and hit it.
How about the clip of him going behind the back and wrapping it around? What was it, Caruso, whoever the hell it was? The wrap around the back and the lay-in, it's a phenomenal finish. It's not even half as impressive as the way he received that ball. Like, that was Leo Messi on wood.
Seriously.
Like, he one-touched it. He never caught it. It was a bounce pass from Marcus Smart, and he just kept the dribble. It was amazing.
He was full speed behind the back, receiving that ball.
Datsuk and Messi on wood. That's Kyrie Irving.
Into a flick of the wrist reverse layup. Like, the layup finish was almost more impressive than the handle.
Like, the one touch to just put it down and not even have to pick it up to dribble. Like, amazing.
So I think I'm more... But again, going back to Golden State and thinking they're vulnerable. I think they're mostly vulnerable against the Celtics, and the reason why is... I haven't seen a team take it to Boogie the way the Celtics did.
Yeah, they did.
Like, ever.
Yeah, they had... Jason Tatum was about to get his soul snatched.
And it's like, if you're going to pick on Boogie like that...
Don't get him that mad.
Holy hell, did they pick on Boogie.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they're going it's the thing that Windhorse has said all year, right? Like Biggie will be a matchup for them in the playoffs.
Sure.
Like he will play against Denver. He will play against those teams with a really good big, whoever they get. He might not see the floor that much against the Celtics. He might not see that floor much against the Rockets.
And that's kind of my problem with Golden State and why I think they might be vulnerable. They sacrificed a lot of depth to get Boogie.
Except now they got Bogut.
Well, but how effective is Bogut going to be?
I know it's the Australian League, but have you seen that highlight tape from this year?
Yeah.
He's moving.
I got to see it in the NBA.
MVP
and I got to see
of the league, Defensive Player of the Year in that league. That's a good league. That's the third best league in the world.
I got to see it in the playoffs. And I'm in. Okay. And I got to see him not snap his leg in the playoffs. Yeah,
that's also true. That's also true. But if he looks like, and again, highlight tapes only show you the highlights, right? So take with that what you will.
Right.
It's like the Instagram all summer. You're only seeing the makes.
But that is like my issue with them getting Boogie was always the Golden State Warriors did not need a center for offense. They always needed a big for defense. Yeah. And they went and got a big
defense and lobs.
Yeah, they went and got a big who doesn't really do either of those things.
When they sign DeAndre Jordan to a vet minimum next year, it's going to be really fun.
They got basically the least switchable big in the league. One of.
I mean, he's coming off an Achilles, so like.
And he gives he gives a ton of floor spacing, but like, dude, you already had that.
He's not shooting the three that great.
But
he's shooting it better than any big they've ever had.
Right, but that's like he does still space the floor, but you already had floor spacing. You didn't need that.
For sure. He'll be a matchup. It'll be interesting to see how they use him in the playoffs.
And maybe he won't see the floor at all.
I'm sure he'll still start every game. I
don't know if Bogut is as good as advertised.
I will say this, like
he's home
too. It is without a doubt not up for debate, no chance that their best lineup does not involve Boogie Cousins.
Absolutely.
Like their best lineup is the Hamptons 5, and it is not up for debate. Boogie's a great player. He's the 5th best player on their team, but he is not in their best 5 lineup.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And I just think the Warriors with Boogie are not peak Warriors.
No, that's not their game. They've never had that, and they wanted it, and that's why you bring them in. Plus, if DeMarcus Cousins says, I want to sign with you for that much money, you just do it.
$5.7 million.
You just do it.
This all-star...
They didn't have the regular minimum. They had the taxpayers minimum.
He is the greatest inside-out big man in the history of the game.
It's not the regular mid-level that, like, teams gave, like Rondo. Like, it's not $9 million. This was the taxpayers mid-level exception and the repeater taxpayers mid-level exception. Boogie Cousins not making any money after California tax. Well, he's making a lot more than I am, but not making any money for Boogie Cousins.
He's gonna make a lot of money next year.
Yes, he is.
All right, that's all we got for this week. Thanks for listening. Kevin, enjoy Chicago.
I will enjoy it very much. Rico will be much more insightful about college basketball anyways.
Yes, try to get to the Big Ten tournament.
Normally I would be worried like, oh no, Rico wants my job, but Rico doesn't want this job.
No, Rico doesn't want this job. Rico's doing well for himself. But yes, Rico Beard joining me next week to talk Michigan State, to talk the college basketball NCAA tournament. I know he has opinions on Duke that I've talked to him about.
He's going to get back from Chicago faster than I will. That's for sure.
He told me he might be in East Lansing, so we'll see where he's calling in from. All right. Thanks for listening, folks.
See you guys.